In the year 1919, the British government passed a new rule which was called Rowlatt Act. Under this act, the government had the authority and power to arrest people and keep them in prisons without any trial if they are suspected with the charge of terrorism. Now, can you imagine in 2020 the government brings this law in India? Will this law sustain? Can it be even thought about? Absolutely no. Without even a charge, just based on suspicion, if people are arrested on the charge of terrorism, that is real slavery. That is not freedom. And this is what this act did, which was called Rowlatt Act. Now the government also earned the power to refrain the newspapers from reporting and printing news. The act was ill-famed as Black Act by the people, and Indians revolted in protest against the Rowlatt Act. So you could be arrested on the charge of terrorism only based on suspicion. No newspaper could publish any news. This is definitely a Black Act. So Rowlatt Act was protested by the people of India, tooth and nail. Now the positive aspect of the reform by British government was subjected to severe sabotage by Rowlatt Act of 1919. By 1919, the British government intended to give people certain powers. But because of this act, all the goodwill that was generated by the Britishers was lost. The act was named after recommendations made in the previous year to the Imperial Legislative Council by Rowlatt Commission. So there was a commission called Rowlatt Commission in 1918 that made the recommendation to bring an act to arrest people on the basis of suspicion on the charge of terrorism. This was the disastrous decision by Britishers. The Rowlatt Commission was appointed to investigate the seditious conspiracy of Indian people when there was none. So this commission was appointed. The basic purpose was to check the seditious conspiracy of the Indian people, and this commission came out with Rowlatt Act, which was even a bigger disaster. The law passed empowered the Viceroy government with extraordinary powers to stop all violations by silencing the press, confining political activists without trial, and arresting any individual suspect of sedition and treachery without any warrant. A nationwide protest was raised by calling it a hartal. So Rowlatt Act was opposed by the people. People were not happy. How can you arrest someone on the basis of suspicion without any proof? Mahatma Gandhi was extremely agitated by the enactment of Rowlatt Act. He was extremely critical about the act and argued that everyone cannot be punished for isolated political crime. The act resulted in extensive outrage of political leaders as well as common public, and the government adopted measures which were very repressive to the native people. Now, since it was protested, Britishers came down heavily on the people. They adopted repressive measures. Gandhi and other leaders of National Congress found it futile to take the measure of constitutional opposition and thereby called a hartal, where Indians suspended all business and fasted to show their hatred for the British legislation. Now, this was the time when Gandhiji and other leaders of Congress thought that there is no point in talking about this anti-law against people through constitutional opposition. So they called a hartal. They told people to suspend all the business and they fasted for an entire day to show their hatred. However, the success of hartal in Delhi was dominated as the tension rose high, which resulted in riot in Punjab and other provinces. And since people were so angry, in some part of Punjab there were riots as well. Now Gandhiji found that Indians were not ready yet for the protest in the path of ahimsa, which was integral part of Satyagraha, and Hartal was suspended. Because there were riots in Punjab and other provinces, Gandhiji took the decision to abandon the Hartal. Gandhiji knew that people are not mature enough to walk on the path of ahimsa, which was integral in the fight of Satyagraha. The agitation reached the pinnacle in Amritsar of Punjab. The Rowlatt Act was effective from 10th of March 1919. In Punjab, the protest movement was vast and strong. On 10th April, exactly 1 month from the date of effectiveness, two renowned leaders of Congress, Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu, were arrested and were taken to unknown places. This is going to be the most drastic, most cowardly act by any government on any citizens. This was Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now, since these two leaders were arrested on 10th of April 1919, a public meeting was held on 13th April at Jallianwala Bagh in Small Park, which is enclosed by buildings on all sides, to protest against the arrest. There was only one way to get out of the entire ground. The meeting was absolutely peaceful. Brigadier General Renigal Dyer, with his British troops, entered the park, closed the entrance of the park, and commanded his army to fire on the gathered people without any warning. The firing lasted for 10 minutes in 1600 rounds, killing about 1,000 people, and more than 2,000 people were left wounded and unattended. The massacre of Jallianwala Bagh was the worst incidence of British rule, and people lost their trust on British government. This was really unfortunate and sad, and it should never happen with any country or any person.